Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all my hand Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile for post Rise of the Duelist. With the release of Rise of the Duelist, we were given Thunder Hand, the newest lineup for all of the different hand support. For those that don't know, hands were released during the Zexal era, where they were used by part of the Barian forces with their different chaos numbers. Number 106 to be exact. It's a really interesting deck for sure, focusing on the playstyle using all the different hands and the number 106 Giant Hand Exceeds from the extra deck. And with the release of Dragons of Legend, the completed series, we have gotten reprints of all the different hand monsters as well. So those looking to build the deck can find it much easier since Thunder Hand is also just a common from the Rise of the Duelist booster set. A very fun control type of deck. Let's go ahead and get started with the video. So for the hand monsters, I wanted to focus as purely on a hand build. I know Hat was a big thing in the past with Trap Tricks, hands, and artifacts, but this is a pure hand build, and I'm running 3 Fire Hand. When this card in your possession is destroyed by your opponent's card and sent to the graveyard, you can target one monster they control, destroy that target, then you can special summon 1 Ice Hand from your deck. So using Fire Hand just as consistency for getting Ice Hand out onto the field. It's a very good, consistent play, because then you'll always have a hand on the field to stall against your opponent. Being able to keep that resource until you get another level 4 monster out on the field makes it very easy for you to set up all of your different plays. So 3 Fire Hand is definitely needed, just like 3 Ice Hand, which I'm also running 3 of. With Ice Hand, when this card in your possession is destroyed by your opponent's card and sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 spell or trap they control, destroy that target, then you can special summon 1 Fire Hand from your deck. So the special summon works back and forth. You want to have plenty of fire and ice hands, so maxed out the numbers on all of them, and then just have options, which we'll go over when we get to the spells, to recycle them back into the deck as well. But your biggest thing with the deck are rank 4 Exceeds plays, and also the rank up plays to go into our number C106 Giant Red Hand. So having these hands available as always having an option on the field makes it your best go-to play for sure. And with Thunder Hand being our newest addition to the deck, it just helps for more consistent play styles and special summons onto the field. With Thunder Hand being our newest of the hand lineup, I'm also running 3 of it. If a face-up monster you control with 1600 original attack and defense is destroyed by battle or by an opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard while this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. And if you do destroy one card your opponent controls, you can only use this effect of Thunder Hand once per turn. So the basic setup for this card is if you have your Ice Hand or Fire Hand, which both have the 1600 attack or defense original lineup ready to go. If they're destroyed, you'll get the additional effect of the Fire or Ice Hand, and with Thunder Hand set up in your hand or graveyard, you'll be able to special summon this card, giving you an extra destruction play on top of the Fire and Ice Hand. So if your opponent's trying to play around the different Fire and Ice Hand plays, you can rely on Thunder Hand as another special summon onto the field, with that special summon giving you more resources to use on the field and also another destruction play. And you won't have to worry about the banish, because you'll then want to overlay with the 2 monsters you get, as long as you can outstall all of your opponent's different attacks, and then use them for the Exceed play next turn, detaching and setting up Thunder Hand once again in your graveyard. So 3 of Thunder Hand I would say is definitely needed, so you always have the resource in your hand to special summon, and also just to set up in your graveyard ready to go also. As long as you have the destruction play with all of your different hand monsters, you'll be ready to go with Thunder Hand also. And I also run 3 Magic Hand. This one and the next one are kind of the more forgotten hand setup. When your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand, except by drawing them, except during the damage step, you can send that card to the graveyard, and if you do inflict 800 points of damage to your opponent, this effect can only be used once while this card is face up on the field. So Magic Hand is a great setup to stop your opponent from having that search power, getting rid of those resources that they add, and also burning them for damage. But Magic Hand also has 1600 defense, so you can use it with the Thunder Hand play if it is to be destroyed by your opponent's card, and then you have the option to summon Thunder Hand, and then just wait for more setup of, let's say, your Fire or Ice Hand on the field. I like running the 3 Magic Hands so you always have monster resources as well. It's just a good defensive play to go off of and take care of your opponent's cards also. And then the last of the hand monsters that I run is Provenance Hand. A more situational card. If you control a Magic Hand, Fire Hand, or Ice Hand, you can special summon this card from your hand. So I think it's very ironic that you special summon it from the hand with this card. I think they knew what they were doing when they made this card. But as long as you have a play to set up, even just having Magic Hand, you can then special summon Provenance Hand onto the the field. And then there is your overlay right there for your rank 4 Exceed. With Master Rule 5 being a thing now, we don't have to worry about, link summoning. We can just go straight for the Exceed play with this deck altogether. It's very useful as well because then you have the option for that special summon and keeping your other resources like Fire and Ice Hand. If you go for the Magic Hand, Provenance Hand play, you can go for the special summon and Destruction play to keep the Fire and Ice Hand combo going without having to use them for the extra deck plays. For the non-hand monsters that I run just for consistency in the deck, I run the 3 Summoner Monk. Just a great setup card, being able to special summon any of your hand targets we already spoke of onto the field to use. You can even set up Thunder Hand with this card and then go for that play there, just discarding your spells for the cost. Very easy, especially if you have doubles of any spells you don't want to use, like some of the rank up spells. If you've already gone for the rank up spell, you can use the extra additional ones you draw for those to use for Summoner Monk's plays. And then to finish off the monsters, I run 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. It's just my go-to hand trap for the deck, just running 3 of this. Very, very useful for sure for that setup. So being able to stop my opponent's draw power altogether with Ash Blossom. And then sitting on cards like Magic Hand, if they do add a card afterwards, so I can even just normal summon Magic Hand, have Ash Blossom in my hand, stop the search I want, but if they go for another one that I know won't be as, difficult to get around, Magic Hand can take care of that card, and then being able to have that set up for the burn damage also comes in handy. So that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. For the rank up magic setup, I want to go with 1 rank up magic limited Barion's Force and 2 rank up magic Numeron's Force. Now this can be Barian Force, not the limited Barian Force, just the original Barian Force, if you wish, because we are running the Barian World, 100 monsters for our rank 4 Exceeds lineup. It's just personal preference, with Numeron Force being able to stop all their monster effects on the field, and limited Barian Force gives us more free space to rank up different rank 4 Exceeds monsters. Rank up magic Numeron Force has to use an Exceeds monster you control and special summon one from number C from the same type. So we have some other rock options along with just number 106 Giant Hand, and also the option for other rank 4s in the extra deck like Daigusto and Morale to use for the rank up play using that card. Once again, if you open up multiples of this card, you can just use them for the discard cost for Summoner Monks if you wish be also. And also, I run 2 Pot of Avarice. The biggest problem with this deck is just that you can go through the Fire and Ice hands very, very quickly, and even just the fodder for some of the other hands. So being able to recycle them back into the deck, if you still have, let's say, Fire hand on the field, but then you have all your Ice hands in the graveyard, being able to recycle them with Avarice for draw power with no repercussions. I thought of Pot of Dichotomy, but you can't go into your battle phase when you use it that turn. Avarice, you're not really limited to that. You just need more monsters set up in the graveyard, which can easily be done with all the extra deck summoning you could be doing in this deck also. So I like to run 2 of this for that recycle power, so you can easily put cards back into the deck to use also. For some of the one-ofs for these spells, I run the 1 Call by the Grave, now 1 on the September ban list, so just trying it out with the 1 of Tech, the 1 Monster Reborn, more resources onto the field. If you have Prominence Hand and you need just that easy special summon without taking up your normal summon, you can get an easy setup using just Monster Reborn. 1 Harpy Feather Duster. If you blow through your opponent's resources with Harpy's Feather Duster and then they're limited to their back row, you can easily take care of them with Ice Hand and then just have it so your opponent has no cards to rely on the field. 1 Foolish Burial. This is to set up Thunder Hand in the graveyard. Just another way to easily search it out, because then you can use it in the graveyard to special summon back on the field when you have Fire and Ice Hand or even Magic Hand on the field. And lastly, the 1 Instant Fusion. So we have the level 4 play, just an additional monster to go into for our rank 4 Exceeds plays. And that is it for the spells. We'll now move on to the traps. One that I'm trying out and I've definitely grown a liking to is there can only be 1. Each player can only control 1 monster of each type. If a player controls 2 or more monsters of the same type, they must send some of them to the graveyard so they no longer control more than 1 monster of that type. What's great about the majority of the hands, aside from Prominence Hand and the fact that Summoner Monk is a spellcaster, being Pyro and Spellcaster, coinciding with Spellcaster, Magic Hand, and also Fire Hand, you're not really limited to a lot of the different plays, because Thunder Hand being Thunder, Aqua for Ice Hand, and Pyro for Fire Hand. Even our extra deck choice, which is Mud Dragon, being a worm, doesn't conflict with that. And then also having the setup for our Exceeds monster, which is number 106 Giant Hand, being a rock monster. You're not limited to your plays, but you can definitely shut down your opponent's plays using this card, depending on the type of deck you're going up against, like Cyberse or Machines, you name it. This card can definitely stop them, but not really, stop your deck too much. You can activate this after you have the setup of, let's say, your Provenance Hand, then go into the Xyz play, and then you can still keep your Xyz monster on the field while still going through the Fire and Ice hands. And I also run 3 Solemn Strike, just a good back row setup when you have there can only be 1 setup on the field, being able to set your Solemn Strike, activate it, stopping some of your opponent's big plays they may try to get out on the field when they have the resources to go for it, and then only having to rely on that play. And lastly, for more special summoning, I run 3 back to the front. If you need to use Fire and Ice Hand for your Xyz monsters in the extra deck, you might want to special summon them back onto the field because you didn't have the chance to special summon more from your main deck onto the field. So back to the front just easily summons them back to use, and then your opponent can go back to destroying these cards or even just giving you more resources on the field to use. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. Your main go-to Xyz is number 106, Giant Hand. I only have 1, but I would definitely want to run more if I did have more copies of this card. You need 2 level 4 monsters during either player's turn. When a monster effect is activated on your opponent's field, except during the damage step, you can detach 2 Xyz materials from this card, then target 1 effect monster your opponent controls while this card is face up on the field. That effect monster's effects are negated, and it cannot change its battle position. Being a more generic setup, it works with the whole hand premise, and also being our go-to Xyz monster for our rank up play, which I'm running 3 of number 1 C106 Giant Red Hand, because we do have the 3 rank ups. If you wanted to drop down one of them for a second copy of Giant Hand, you can do that also. But with number C106 Giant Red Hand, if this card has a number monster as material, it gains this effect once per turn. When a card or effect is activated on the field, quick effect, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card. If you do, negate that effect and all other face-up cards on the field currently on the field. So the negation effect is a stronger version of Giant Hand, but also works just with the additional power of Numeron Force to back up the effect if your opponent does try to stop this play altogether. But a go-to rank up play, just being a bigger boost into a stronger hand monster. Also, for some of the more generic Xyz monsters, I run 1 number 41 Baguska, the Sleepy Tired Tapir, 1 number 39 Utopia, and 1 Utopia the Lightning, 1 Castel, 1 Tornado Dragon, 1 Digesto Morale works very, very well for the fact that I already spoke that it is a rock monster, so you can even rank up using your Numeron Force into C106 Giant Red Hand, 1 Abyss Dweller, and 1 Gaga Cowboy, having all of the rank 4 Xyz plays options in the deck, so you have different plays to go for, whether it's more destruction, graveyard shutdown, recycle power, burn damage to your opponent. You have all the options available to you with this extra deck lineup. For the Link monsters, I just run 1 Nightmare Phoenix and 1 Nightmare Cerberus. For all the options, if you just need the Link monster play to go into, there might be the Dimensional Barrier chance that your opponent may run that card and stop your plays, but that's completely up to the player at that point what they want to go into. And the 1 Mud Dragon of the Swamp, so you have the instant fusion target for this card also. And then your go-to plays, like I spoke of before, having the Foolish Burial set up for sending your Thunder Hand to the graveyard, because then if your opponent destroys either of the hands on the field, let's say you have your Thunder Hand set up in the graveyard thanks to Foolish Burial, if your opponent destroys Fire Hand, you'll get the special summon of Ice Hand onto the field, destroying an opponent's monster, special summoning Thunder Hand onto the field and destroying an additional card, and then if your opponent wants to attack into one of these cards, they have the setup for this, but then if they have to attack into Ice Hand again come next turn, you special summon another Fire Hand to the field, and then just repeat the process with Thunder Hand, always giving you that additional resource and additional destruction on the field. Also, if you want to go for some of the other rank up Xyz plays, which we spoke of, the Magic Hand Provenance play works very well for the fact that you'll just have to special summon Provenance Hand out with any of the other hands we spoke of, overlaying the 2 for whatever Xyz you need. Even number 39 Utopia and number 41 Baguska are both number monsters, so they can work very, very well for your setup with your Limited Variance Force or your rank up Magic Numeron Force for the Xyz, but the extra benefit will be if you use that play to summon out your number C106 Giant Red Hand. It'll have the number monster attached onto it, so it'll gain the additional effect regardless or not if you have Giant Hand equipped onto it also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Until next time, I definitely love working on these, underrated, overlooked decks. They're a lot of fun to work on and play, so definitely give them a shot. But until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.